has not had any history of mouse activity. So you're twisting the words.
Okay.
So you put on the lawyer hat and you read it and you're like, son of a nutcracker, based upon all that has been said, I do have to.
What you just watched, that's the breaking point. But you haven't seen the real story that led here. Joseph Gagnon trusted a professional storage service with his life's possessions, only to find a total nightmare waiting behind the steel doors. This is Joseph Gagnon versus Charles Chuck Amrine. Joseph paid for a shipping container he believed was secure and airtight. But after 9 months, his expensive furniture was ruined by rodents. Chuck claims he meticulously inspects every unit, yet he somehow missed a documented hole in the door seal. At stake is thousands in damages. But the real mystery is, does weatherproof legally mean pest-proof? Joseph is about to learn a brutal lesson about the fine print and the law. If you want to understand courtroom psychology and how a single word can win or lose a case, hit subscribe. Let's see how she handled this from day one.
All right. Just give me 1 second. Just getting all this stuff up. Mr. Gagnon and you're Mr. Amrine.
Yes.
All right.
Correct.
Oh, did you give me that document? And I didn't.
Yeah, I put it on top of your calendar. You
Did
need
you?
mine?
Well, I didn't find my calendar yet, so I will. Oh, it's right here. I
Got it? Okay.
Okay. We will go on the record in the matter 25 SC 202, Joseph Gagnon versus Charles Amrine. Appearances are we do have both parties appearing in person without counsel. We are set here for the second part of this court trial. We had a lot of exhibits and a lot of discussion. I have all of the documents from the previous matter in front of me. Mr. Gagnon, you were in the process of discussing or testifying about the damage and the container and where you were going with that. Before we begin and you continue, both parties please stand, raise your right hand and be sworn in.
Do you affirm that the testimony you're about to provide in this matter shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, yes, I do.
All right, you may be seated. Okay, Mr. Gagnon, you may begin.
All right, Your Honor, and we were, I would just begun when we needed to stop last time interviewing Mr. Amrine's as the first person I had called to ask some questions.
That's right. Okay, and then were you going to continue to have him testify, or
Yes.
where were you going?
Yes.
Okay, and so I'm just going to allow you to continue to sit there instead of coming up here, and vice versa with when you give testimony or question people. So you may continue. You go ahead.
Okay, and with the court's permission and Mr. Amrine's, Chuck, sorry, do I have your permission to call you Chuck?
Sure.
Because I butcher your last name every time I say it. All right,
Right.
Thank you, Chuck. All right, so I'll start with the kind of resuming the questions I was asking before, and I apologize if there's a little bit of overlap, but set some context. When we were here last time, you had indicated you'd been in the container business. You had 17 containers that you rent out. I wanted to ask you, how long have you been doing this?
4 or 5 years.
And in that time, how many rent cycles would you say you've had?
20 to 30.
Okay. And would you consider yourself, an expert or highly experienced in the field of containers, container rental?
Just moderately. I would judge myself.
Got it.
I'm sorry, can you say?
Oh, I'm sorry. Just moderately as far as experience.
And have you had any experience or scenarios when, in your rental history, where your clients had issues with intrusion of rodents?
Never.
Okay. And I'd like to ask if I can include an email. Chuck, I want to give you a copy. Your Honor, I'd like to give you a copy to reference the next set.
Of what?
It's an email
From what?
from Chuck to me.
Okay,
Is that okay?
that's fine. It needs to be marked as an exhibit if it already has not been
What
marked.
is the date on that email?
On 9/18.
You introduced that as document 24 or as exhibit 24 on the last court date.
Okay. My challenge is, yeah, and is that the, where it referenced the 9/16 email in the title?
I have email of 9/18.
This says 9/18 on the top and it's just 9/18.
So you have a 9/16, a September 16 date too, in addition to the September 18th date?
Give me a minute. Get in there. I have the list of exhibits that I got from the court.
Look at the top of that email. Just tell me the date that's on that email.
Yeah, it's 9/18.
Okay, then we're all good. We already have it. It's exhibit, document number 34, exhibit 24.
Okay, and Chuck, do you have a copy of that?
He probably does not. If you're going to redo it, just go ahead and, if you have copies, just give him an extra one. I have it in front of me right now.
Okay. Chuck, what you see in front of you is the email you sent to me on 9/18. And I've put a line across the top half versus the bottom half. I'm referring to the top half. A moment ago, you indicated that you did not have any experience with rodent intrusion in your rentals. I wanted to ask you to, read the first half of that email. And then I have a question.
From the top to the line.
Yes, please.
Okay. Joe, thanks for the note and info. I'll use this in the future for my customers. I did a little talking with my suppliers and others as to how to handle the situation. Number one, everyone was incredulous. Number two, one of my wholesalers who has been in the business for over 15 years and does about 100 times the volume that I do, said he has never had a mouse situation.
Okay, you can stop. I can read. I know how to read that too. So
Okay.
just have him pick out the important parts that you want, because it's a long email.
Okay, and so the key point here is, so you cited literally, thousands of cases with no issues with mice or rodent intrusion. In your own experience, you didn't have any, and based on your sources, you've got, 1,000 examples where that is just not the case.
Correct.
Basically inferring that, the storage containers, are not subject to intrusion by mice.
I don't think that's what he said. That's not what it said. I don't believe he said they're not subject to intrusion by mice. He just said he, in his career, has not had any history of mouse activity. So you're twisting the words.
Okay.
So you can ask what exactly he said and have him say what he.
So I'll ask the question, Chuck. So, in your experience, in the experience of your suppliers, what's unique about our situation, my situation? And Chuck, that's let me phrase it another way. We both sit here today having gone through the experience, and we know where we're at and where we are today. Based on your experience, your supplier's experience, your colleagues and the numerous examples, and what we've seen in terms of evidence and pictures and.
Is there anything different from his experience versus any other customer experience you've had?
Yes, this is the first and only time that I've experienced or my suppliers have experienced the mouse intrusion
That you're aware of?
that I'm aware of.
Done. Next question.
And what is unique about our situation or the container that I rented that drove that outcome?
There was, the mouse got in, you've documented that there was a hole in the gasket where the mice supposedly got in. And you've documented that thoroughly.
Okay, and do you agree that that's the likely point of entry and exit?
I agree that that's the likely point of entry and exit.
I guess that's all that matters.
Okay, I agree too.
Okay, thank you. I'll move on. Chuck, I've presented a lot of pictures showing that point of entry and exit. Would you say the gaps that we've looked at in those pictures is typical of a container and the doors and the door seals?
The gap, the hole in the gasket you're asking,
Yes,
is that typical?
yes.
No,
Okay. And if the doors did not have that gap, do you think that it's likely we would have had the issue with the mice entering and exiting the container?
I think just from the evidence of hundreds and thousands of other situations that I know of, I think the answer would be no.
Okay, thank you. All right, now I want to speak to, and this is an extension of the questions we were literally on when we paused last time. And it's really about the process you went through to prepare the container to bring it to me. And can you tell us a little bit more again about, what's the inspection process you go through to prepare a container for rental?
Yes, when I buy them, I look at those gaskets. If that's the focus of what we're talking about, I look at them very clearly before I even buy them from my supplier. In this particular one, not all these units that I have, but this one, where you photograph, is painted, and I pressure wash them with extremely high temperature water. And then I painted the outside flat brown, and I painted, as you can see, the inside glossy white. This is extremely rare in the industry. Nobody paints these things. They're old containers. These are all used. I don't know of anybody else that does this unless they do custom work on them. So that's the difference that you have from the 99.9% of the containers that I'm aware of. And during that inspection, or during that washing and painting, it precludes or includes an inspection. I'm looking at everything, top, outside, inside. And if you do, when you pressure wash them, obviously if there's a leak or a hole or anything like that, you're going to see that on the inside when you walk there.
Okay, and
here I'm gonna kind of direct you, so you know the focus of this case here. I get it. You had rodent damage in your container, but the focus of the case here is the contract. You had a contract signed with this individual. So that's your focus. The focus is the contract. And if there's anything that would kick it out of the contract, okay? And like negligence or, any, like he was reckless or he intentionally did anything, that's the focus of this case.
for sure, and
sure.
yes, and I'm sorry, I didn't mean to say that in a flip way at all, right?
Oh, you did not say anything in flip. I was doing it. He was going to raise his hand to say something. So that's why I was like, no, because this is your time.
Okay, and so it is my assertion and has been that Chuck was negligent. Chuck was in not properly inspecting the door seals and not properly maintaining them.
Okay, based upon the contract, that's what you have to look at. I understand your argument and I understand what you're saying, but it has to be focused on the contract
Okay.
and how he violated that contract.
Understand?
Okay,
And, in the contract, it doesn't say anything specifically about the door seals or the maintenance that I'm aware of. And so what I'm trying to establish is what process Chuck went through, what he observed, what the maintenance cycle was for the door gaskets. And so that was going to be my line of questioning. And I guess, Your Honor, I'm hearing you say that's not relevant. Is that I'm sorry, I shouldn't say, you're not saying that.
no, without wasting more of both of your time.
Fair, I'm all for, so
This is a more simple case than
I'm making it out to be.
now to be.
I'm, don't pull a punch, please. Tell me what you think.
Not, because this is a contract, and with a contract, the court must read the contract, the words in the contract as the plain language they are in that contract to see what is binding
Yes,
between the parties, okay?
yes,
And there are only certain situations that you can break the contract or go outside of those four corners of that page. And so what your job is to prove that he violated that contract.
fair point. And I went there last time with a set of questions around the legal terms in the contract specific to water resistant and you asked me to leave that.
Well, because here's the thing. Again, to be blunt,
Yes,
the definitions of whatever you believe they are should have been in the contract. Because it has to go on plain language. I'm going to tell you, in a case like this, a simple case, if this were, I had two attorneys and two people here and they're fighting over this, they would just say, Judge, here's the contract, read the contract, tell me what it means. Tell me who's at fault, what is binding and what is not, and all of those things. I can easily do that right now. I'm letting you try to prove your case.
got it. So I'll ask a few more questions and I'll move on and try to figure out, where we need to go that would be helpful to all parties here. Chuck, last time we met, I had asked you a set of questions about the inspection you'd done. Did you go inside the container? Did you not? You indicated you had not. I'll say this, since you've got the container back and are able to look at it and observe exactly firsthand what I experienced. Also, you came in late July and August and did the same thing. Have you, subsequent to renting the container to me, have you done maintenance on those seals?
On that particular unit,
Yes.
I got 5 of them in my backyard. I'm working on them, but I haven't completed this one.
Okay. And, part of our contract was the written verbally back in September. Did you not tell me that you inspect the containers and that they are, ready for rental, that you took me through the similar verbiage that you did today and told me that you check the doors for that they seal, you check for holes in the unit. You took me through the process describing the integrity of the container. And we also had a conversation relative to my alternative, wanting to use the container versus throwing my household goods in a pole barn. Do you recall that? I'm realizing, do you recall that conversation?
No.
Do you recall telling me about what you do to prepare and inspect the containers?
Did he make any promises, and were those promises in writing in the contract? Because that's why we're here, is a contract. Whatever is said in the contract.
So,
whatever is said outside of the contract doesn't matter. And in Wisconsin, subsequent remedial measures, let's say that something happened, you're like, oh, Mr. Amrine, like, this is what happened, da, 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 da. And he goes, well, Mr. Gagnon, thanks for letting me know so I can address this, so I can make sure that this doesn't happen, to somebody else, because this is kind of not cool, okay? In Wisconsin, the fact that he may have then fixed that container and, welded that hole shut or
Yeah.
did all the things, that doesn't prove, you can't use that in this case. It's inadmissible. You
Okay,
can't use that to show that he was negligent or any way or whatever. But the fact of the matter exists wholeheartedly that whatever's in the contract, he could have said, I promise I'll give you $1 million because whatever. But if it's not in the contract, it doesn't exist.
so there's no part of our contract that's bounding by verbal conversation?
No,
Okay,
because it's the writing. Because I have to tell this to a lot of people, and so do a lot of judges.
yep,
If you want it in writing, you have to make sure you get him to put it in writing.
understand.
So if he had said then afterwards, and you had this conversation with him and you're like, Mr. Amrine, this is, this caused a lot of stuff and a lot of damage. And then he goes, dude, I'm going to cover it. I gotcha. That could be used, but he didn't say any of those things. That's why we're here.
Yeah.
So anything that transpired before the written contract doesn't matter or exist because it's whatever's in the document.
Okay.
Okay.
Mhm. So, in that context, we had, in Mr. Amron's answer, he suggested that and stated that the rodent control was the responsibility of the renter.
The what?
In his,
The rodent control?
rodent control is the responsibility of the renter.
If you want this case done right now, I'll tell you right now, you're not proving your case. It is your responsibility. He is to make it weatherproof, not rodent proof. There is a complete difference in those things. All right.
I understand.
Now, if you would have said, hey, Mr. Amrine.
That's where I was.
If you would have said, Mr. Amrine, here, let me pull up your contract. If you would have said, Mr. Amrine, I'm looking at the contract right here, and you know what? It says right here, it says weatherproof. I don't know where it says weatherproof, but it says make it weatherproof. I want you to tell me that you're going to make it rodent proof too. If you would have said that to him in making this contract, you would have had to have put that in this contract for it to be binding. And if the rodents got in just like they did, and they damaged your stuff just like they did, he would have been responsible. That's not the case here. It's a pretty cut and dry case. It's a contract case. I've read this contract. I've heard the testimony. There is nothing here.
Other than his answer to the court, to my complaint that said that he suggested and said rodent control is the responsibility of the renter, me.
Right. Yep.
And I'm was going to go down the path of that was not communicated verbally. That's not in the contract. That's
for you to know, not for him to tell you. Here's the thing. You have to read. You have to edit.
which I did.
You're right, but you didn't have him at it. You didn't have him put rodent proof. It says right here in paragraph 1, agreement includes supply and delivery by Applewood for 1 20-foot shipping container, SC 206 WWP. Here's the keywords here. Here's the absolute thing that makes this case, weather and watertight condition. Okay. If your property had any water damage at all, any water damage, any weather damage, any type of things that was from the atmosphere, the weather, boom, you win your case.
And
There's
so
absolutely nothing about rodents.
And so if there was, holes in the roof,
Then that's on you. And it also says in here that you must insure, you, the renter, must insure your property, not him.
I understand. And my property was insured and
Bang, bang, boom. And if they didn't cover it, that's between you and your insurance company. That's not for you to have him because his contract says weather and watertight condition. You want me to get into the definitions? I sure can, but we're
Yeah.
going down all of these things and I completely understand your frustration. I completely understand your anger or being
Yeah,
upset, or you had nice property. There were nice couches and nice things there. But when you're looking at your agreement
Mhm.
with a person, it's what is written in black and white on these four.
You know, fair. I can understand the contract also, and I understand the framework of the contract and its value and its place in arbitrating where we are, right? You know, Your Honor, I appreciate that, right? Where I'm really struggling is if, you know, weather tight has a meaning.
Here's the
Yes,
deal.
yeah.
I can tell you in case law, it says weatherproof. Legally, the term quote, weatherproof does not imply quote, pest proof. A structure can be perfectly sealed against rain and be weatherproof while still being vulnerable to animals that chew through materials to create their own entry points or get in otherwise.
Got it. I understand.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so that's the thing is that's not in there.
I don't disagree with you for sure. And the inference for me, and this is just Joe's opinion, and I know you're going to tell me that's interesting, Joe, it's just not relevant, right?
Yeah.
Which is, you know, weatherproof, weathertight conversations that there's, you know, that container has 6 sides to it. 5 of them are steel. One of them is a set of steel doors. And that the doors at that end are your entry point for a lot of things, including weather.
Agreed.
Right? And so they need to have a certain level of integrity in order to prevent water and anything else from coming in.
Not anything else. Not anything else. Weatherproof and watertight. I get what you want.
No, I'm telling you what I interpreted. I'm not saying that's what it is. You're educating me, right? And maybe Chuck knew this all along, and that's why we're here and why he's been resistant to entertain any sort of you know, fair deal, as I would call it, between what happened and how it happened. I know that I didn't own the responsibility to make sure that the seals closed properly and that you couldn't see a gap when the doors were closed. That was Chuck's accountability, Chuck's responsibility. I believe he was negligent in that regard.
But he's pursuant to his contract, he's not.
Fair point. And that, because it didn't say weather, it didn't say rodents, it didn't say insects, it didn't say all the possible points of intrusion that can cause damage. It was limited in that regard. And Your Honor, if that's where we're at, I can accept that. And I would tell Chuck, hey, you know, it is what it is. You know, I can accept that. And I candidly, I apologize to the court and Chuck. I've wasted a lot of time.
Oh, but here's the thing. And I know I've been a little, I just don't want, you have a right to come here and to argue. And this is a huge learning experience.
Mhm.
You're doing a great job. You are very organized and you're making arguments and those types of things. I don't know what you do for work, but the key difference here, and the thing is, it's like you're being prepared. How do I present a case? And you're good at that. You're really good at that. Except maybe identifying the exhibits. And you can a little bit help that.
Like this much.
Yeah, just a little bit. But the reason why there are lawyers, and I don't know if Mr. Amrine had a lawyer help him with this document or not help him with this document, but it's because they can pick out the issues in the case and what this is really about. And this is a plain and simple contract case, and you go off of the exact language. I have to strictly construe what is in black and white. Black and white. I can't go, well, you know what? It could be that it could mean this because some study said this or did this, or it could do this because something said this, or, you know, maybe I'm thinking personally all of this. I can't do that. because I am told by the Court of Appeals, by the Supreme Court, I
Yeah.
have to strictly construe with the normal meaning, the specific meaning of the words. And I'm going to tell you, I'm pretty confident Mr. Amrine knew exactly what his words meant and why his contract is written the way it is and doesn't, it's weather and watertight, weatherproof and watertight. It has nothing to do with rodents
Yeah, and
or pests of
Yeah.
any kind.
yeah, and understand. And so I would say this, that there's no doubt from the documentation that I've provided that he did not deliver to me a container that was weather and waterproof.
And I love that argument. And you are you're trying really hard. And again, that's what lawyers do. And so that you're doing a good job, but it's wrong. It fails. Because had your furniture or
Gotten wet.
yes, any bit wet,
Yeah,
he would have owed you all the money.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. I mean, again, I'm hearing you. It's the nature of the loss, not the nature of the integrity as to whether or not, I mean, I think all three of us would agree that that container was not weather tight and weather sealed. But we also would agree the nature of the damage wasn't weather related.
Well, here's the thing. How long was it in the container? How long?
9 months.
9 months? And
I know,
what seasons? What seasons?
Went in October, came out in July.
So plenty of wet seasons, rainy, slushy, snowy, all of
And-
those things. And the door, even in its condition, didn't allow that weather in, did it?
Actually, we don't know. We were never in there. No, you know, put it this way, if the snow had built up and I'll go on to say the front where the doors is was like 4 feet of open space.
Okay, but I don't have pictures of water damage.
I'm not disagreeing with you. I am saying, you know, there may have been a little bit of a water intrusion. It did not make its way to my contents.
Right, and let's say that there was water intrusion, okay?
Yes.
Let's say that we had
Proof the water was in.
hurricane and that water came
Yep.
in. Again, you may get a little bit, you may be able to negotiate and get a little bit of, you might go, yeah, I get that. And you might take a little bit of money off, but you would never get, but that would even still be on his,
Kind of his subjectivity, deciding if he wants to do that.
because it did no damage.
Amen. I understand.
So now that he knows though, that door has a hole, he can make the subsequent remedial measures and fix that door. And hopefully somebody else is not going to have rodent damage, but for sure they're not going to have weather damage. And it's unfortunate. It truly is.
Mhm.
I feel for you. I truly do. And let's take this black robe off and let's be a human and a person.
Yeah, sure.
And if I was in your situation, I'd be just as ticked off and just as mad because you had nice things and you're like, seriously, that's why I got the container, because I didn't want to have it in a shed. I didn't want to have it in a barn. I didn't want to have to worry about that because there's more access to rodents and pests and
sure.
those things.
Yeah.
I would feel the same. But then if I have to put on my lawyer hat,
Yeah.
even without the judge hat, you put on the lawyer hat and you read it and you're like, son of a nutcracker,
Yeah.
why didn't I negotiate and say, because every person in your seat has the ability to go, okay, Mr. Amrine, I like this and I want to deal with you. Let's add this because this is going to make me feel better. And if he wants to, he'll go, yeah, sure. Let's add that. Let's write that in right now. And then you're covered and you're protected. And then you have a contract that you feel is good. Otherwise, you know, here, this is the contract he uses for everybody. It's probably the same thing. But just because it's a form and then there's places to handwrite things in, doesn't mean that you, Mr. Gagnon, can't go, hey, supplier, hey, person that I want to work with.
I understand.
Let's add this because it'll make
Yeah.
me feel more comfortable.
Yeah, and I understand. We could have added, you know, any number of provisions, right?
Right.
And I'll just say this because it's at the end of the day, you know, what happened was unfortunate. The contract language cannot possibly address every and all. We'd have a 18-page contract on something that was adequately served in 2 or 3 pages, right? For me, we're here in part A because the contract, didn't make it black and white clear.
I have to.
I understand, and it almost never does. I mean, at the end of the day, most business transactions are contractually deficient when it comes to, I'll say, malfunctions like this. Something goes wrong. And so to me, and I've said this to Chuck, and my biggest disappointment is that at the end of the day, Chuck's a businessman providing a service. We all know how the mice got in. We know what happened. And I told you day one, Chuck, I'm at your discretion. I would ask you to work with me in good faith, at least give me my money back, perhaps entertain some of the cost of the damage. You rejected that, some overture of that sort of, hey, business to business, not contract to contract, will you do the right thing and do something that's fair for both of us? And that was rejected repeatedly, hence we're here. So, am I disappointed in my stuff? Got in my, more than anything, I'm most distraught with the fact that it's hard to determine and size up somebody's business context or the way they operate and how what they're gonna do when things don't go well. And that's my biggest disappointment.
And I hear you.
Yep.
And I hear you.
And that's just appealing to Chuck as a human being.
As a human.
Yeah, exactly.
With
That's it.
empathy, with even sympathy, with, his morals, his values,
Yep.
his things. But in the end, and at the end of the day, he's a businessman and he has to look out for his business that probably supports his family,
Sure.
his friend, or not his friends, but maybe, I don't know.
I mean,
but his family and all
we
of
both
that.
have that, right?
Right.
Yeah, I mean,
And so, and here's the thing too. Let's say that Mr. Amrine really likes you and thinks that you are a nice person and he does feel for you. He really likes you. Let's say that he does that for you when it's not in the contract and somebody else finds out about it later and something happens like this, then they'll do the same thing. And then
I mean, there's only,
the door.
yeah, to me, I mean, I understand, right? And I just go on there's only one way to do the right thing. And that's so subjective. What that means to me, what it means to Chuck or anybody else is different, right? I'll pause there. I appreciate you pushing this where it needed to go. I mean, I'll say it this way. I would like to suggest and tell Chuck, thank you for your testimony. I'm done with Chuck. And Your Honor, I think you know enough to know. I don't think there's where we need to go on this. I don't think there's anything that I have in my kit bag here in my arguments that's gonna influence the frame of what's on the written contract in the 2+ pages.
And it won't.
And it won't. So.
And it's unfortunate, but I mean, as a person who deals with things like this, then you'll have other contracts and things. Hopefully this is a learning experience. And I don't know, those contracts that you get, when you get your phone or you do a mortgage, they're called contracts of adhesion. You have to sign them. You don't have any ability to negotiate or to argue or to say, you know what, I want to change this to this or this to this. In a small town world with Mr. Amrine's contract, you may have been able to negotiate some of those things and you may have been able to write those things in, or you may not have. But again, that falls on the businessman and it falls on what you're specifically looking for. And the key things here again are the weatherproof and watertight condition, saying nothing about pests or rodents or anything, and the fact that you must ensure your contents.
Yeah, and understand. And I'll just, offer, Your Honor, just for your context, and Chuck knows this because we've talked about it. You asked about, background history. I spent 30 years in the tech industry and negotiated literally thousands of contracts. And to me, this is the classic case of, and if the relationship between me and my clients, of my corporation, we would have contracts that stood this high. And at the end of the day, because if you were driven by what the lawyers said you needed on both sides, you'd never do business. And it always got down to, yeah, we need to have language in there to really deal with something when I'm not here and you're not here and shit's hitting the fan. Forgive me for the language, and so when there's parties that aren't looking in the whites of each other's eyes, trying to arbitrate this or judge on this, that's what the contract's for. At the end of the day, when something goes wrong, we need to just work that out. It's more efficient, it's more effective, and so that was my aspiration and desire on this with you, Chuck, since August, when we both were observing what was going on, and then ultimately on the 21st of September, when we both had pretty concrete visibility to what the point of intrusion and exit and entrance was. And there was no path that we went through that said this was going to get resolved without being here.
And that's his right.
Sure it is.
And I'm going to tell you, that's called mediation.
Yeah.
I love mediation. Mediation resolves a lot of things. And sometimes parties who are not responsible agree to other things just to have the matter be resolved. Neither of you have attorneys, so you're not spending lots and lots of money in attorney's fees, but it does cost time. And so sometimes people want to just get it done and sit down and.
Yeah, and Chuck suggested that. And I was open to that, right? But I'm saying the mediator is going to require, the mediator doesn't judge. They facilitate you and I.
And I could have sat here and done that. I mediated for many, many, many years. When I was a lawyer too. I could do that, but as a judge, that's not my job. I can't do that. I can't say, no, come on, Mr. Amrine, you got a heart. I know you do. Let's go. Mr. Gagnon, yes. Are you willing to budge a little bit?
For sure.
But in this role, I have to look at the law is the law. It says this, the words say this, it's black and white, four corners. I truly feel for you, Mr. Gagnon.
Yeah, no, and Judge, your empathy has come through in spades. I appreciate it. I'm good with that. I would just, message heard. I'm okay. In all of this, it's fine. I just, I am appealing to Chuck to do what I would hope, in my opinion, to be the right thing. And that's still where we are.
It is heard. That's all we can do. But based upon all that has been said, I do have to dismiss your matter.
Okay.
I'm sorry. And I'm sorry the insurance company wasn't better.
Well, and it is even better. Rodent is a specific exclusion in nearly every homeowner's policy there is. That's, Chuck suggested that. I went and researched because, oh, that's a reasonable remedy, right? If you looked at, all five of us in this room, we would find that in that fine print, because they're not going to manage that risk because there's bad seals and doors and all kinds of things, right? So, but that was a fair path. And then we went from that exploratory work to, hey, these things don't have mice. And Chuck and his colleagues said, you sure they weren't in there when you loaded the stuff?
Well,
you sure
we all know that wasn't true.
Yeah, we sure they didn't hop in?
They could have. Is it possible that they went in when you were loading the stuff? It's possible.
Not probable.
Not probable.
Right. And then
I understand it. You're making some really good arguments, but for the language in the contract.
Yep. And then the latter was, rodent controls my responsibility, and you're saying it is, but it's not in the contract.
But the contract doesn't have to specifically say that because it does not mention rodent protection. It doesn't have to say rodents are excluded. I understand.
So it's
like that too.
Yeah. So it applies to me, but doesn't apply to him because it's not in the contract.
Correct. Because what's in the contract is what matters. And the exclusion of one thing means that it's not included.
Fair, yeah.
And he doesn't have to bring it to your attention that things are excluded. He doesn't have to say, well, rodent damage is excluded, dropping ice cream on it when you're.
Yeah, no, and again, you know, fundamentally, I'll just say this, and, you know, why didn't I ask for that? Because generally speaking, in thousands of cases, when the door seals are properly maintained and where they need to be, and you close them, they're nearly rodent resistant. Now, and they could have, certainly they could chew in all that sort of stuff. And I told the check, look, if we had, you know, new soft seals and there was evidence that, you know, they chewed in, tough. I mean, that's unfortunate, but tough. That wasn't the case here.
And I hear you, and it's a good argument, but in your own words, you said nearly rodent proof, nearly. And so
but even water resistant isn't waterproof.
Correct.
Yeah, you know, so it's just like if that container fell in the ocean, it's going to sink. It's not going to float.
Right.
Right. So I'm, you know, and again, he wouldn't and couldn't, he can't deliver it on being waterproof. You know, if I said rodent resistant, yeah, it is kind of rodent, it's not rodent proof, but if the door seals are there, it's kind of rodent resistant. Hence, that's why there was thousands of examples that hasn't happened.
When you take your boat to have it winterized and
Yes.
to have it sealed on top and
Yeah.
all of those things, they don't guarantee.
For sure.
rodent proof.
Yeah, I
Because
understand.
they can't,
Right.
even though it's sealed and they have that little and they spray it.
But I would argue if you stored that boat in a container, it would be pretty damn near rodent proof.
If you would have thrown the little pouches of things in your container, you would have put in some dryer sheets, you would have put in some mint, taken peppermint,
Yeah,
sprayed it all
yep.
over. That would have made it rodent resistant and potentially rodent proof.
For sure.
So there are multiple things.
All right. Thank you, Your Honor.
All right, thank you.
Chuck, thank you.
We are adjourned.
Your Honor,
Yes. Oh, well, are we back on the record?
excuse me.
Yeah, I didn't let you talk at all.
Yeah, and that's my request. I mean,
Well,
12 minutes?
you honestly don't have to say anything.
No, I know, but I'm kind of giggling here a little bit because it is what I'm gonna say is redundant about 80% of what's just happened here this morning. But I would like to say it. 12 minutes,
How do you know it's gonna be 12 minutes?
because I've timed it.
You've timed it. If you're reading something.
Yeah.
Well, you can't really read something, but I mean, I can read it. Why don't you tell me out of your heart what you want me to know? Because when you read something, it's a lot harder for the court reporter, plus in cases,
Oh,
unless it's an argument. Are you gonna give us each a copy?
yeah, there's 3 copies here.
Love it. Give us a copy.
Well,
You don't have to mark it.
oh, okay.
I can do it after.
Yeah, she'll do it after. But yeah, I'll let you speak.
Thanks, Chuck.
Yeah, and you don't have to read this because you want to know what, I mean, he can read it and he'll read it after and he'll read it word for word.
Okay.
And I will too, I promise.
Okay.
But I want to hear from your heart
I hear you.
and your business brain.
Okay. Well, let me do half of that. I'm trying to figure out what you're saying there. I have 5 questions for him first, and then I'll cut this down.
Sure, go ahead.
Okay.
Yeah, go ahead, Chuck.
Number 1, when I first delivered the container, did you help me set that container on dunnage or wooden blocks?
Absolutely.
Because it was on a slope for one thing, but we went around the whole thing, right?
Yeah.
Okay. And when the container was delivered per your photograph, did you see any rust stains on the interior, the white walls or the white ceiling?
No.
And did you see any water stains on the floor, especially right at the threshold where the doors close?
I'll say this, Chuck, my observation, not saying, you know, it looked like, you know, it would, high humidity, like it's container, you could tell it.
It is high humidity
got
when you
hot
close
and
the
cold.
lid.
Let's stop just one second, just to see. Do any of you care if this is on the record? Do you care, Mr.
Oh, that's
Amling?
fine.
So then I can have my court reporter stop. She types all the things and it's a lot of work.
Oh, whatever you do.
Okay, so.
I don't care.
Okay, so we are gonna be off the record and we're just gonna, you have,
Yeah,
or
that's-
you have the time. Go ahead,
Okay,
because you've already won.
yeah, okay. So on number 4, during the time your container was there from September to 24 to October 25, did your possession suffer any water damage?
No, we've established that, Chuck, no.
I know 80% of this is gonna be repetitive.
Yeah, here's the thing, Mr. Gagnon. He wants to be able to speak to and have his words heard. And I'm just, it's all redundant, all the things that we're asked to and all those
Yep.
things. I'm just,
Yeah.
give him a little bit of lenience.
And I appreciate that. Okay. Last question. In the 12 months again, when you had the container, did any of your possessions be displaced by sudden gust of air or wind, such as pillows being around, thrown around?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay, good. Let's see, let me see, go through this. Once again, I'll just repeat that 80%, which you talked about, the contracts, and what's in there, let's see.
Yeah, you're saying all the same, this is all the things that we've already talked about.
I know, the longer you went, the more you covered.
I'm pretty thorough.
Yeah, so, let's see. And let's pick up this. When you first called me and we talked about the mice problem, I asked about insuring your contents, and you said you did not. I thought,
Chuck, sorry. What I said is I never got the declaration page that your contract said you would require
Okay.
before you rented to me,
okay.
right?
Then you volunteered something about not reading the whole contract, and I thought that was a little
Oh,
strange.
I didn't hear that.
Huh?
I didn't hear that he didn't read the whole contract.
I did when we first talked about doing business together.
Oh, maybe he said it to you, but he's not, I didn't hear that in our hearings.
Yeah,
Okay.
And
Right.
I'll say this, Chuck, we came, as you said, we spent a lot of time kind of placing it, finding it, et cetera,
mhm,
right? You delivered a 3-page contract, you asked who could be the spokesman for this when I wasn't here, the
Mhm.
builder, we added my wife's name, the builder's name, okay? You asked for a check, you asked me to sign the contract.
mhm.
We didn't speak about any of the 12 points we didn't talk about insurance, we didn't
Right.
talk about the
Right.
declaration pay, things that you said you would require, you didn't do that day. Nor did I say, okay, Chuck, can you take and sit here for 20 minutes while I read every clause? So I read the contract, but after you had left.
Okay.
Oh, you moved a house. Nice. I did that once. It's not an easy thing.
It's hard.
And you have to everybody has to get involved in the telephone lines and all of those things. Wow, it sounds like your house is nice though.
Hence the need for a storage container for the contents
I understand.
in the period of time where you got a house, but you don't have any of the mechanics.
Where do you move the house from?
I moved it about 400 or 500 feet to a back lot.
Oh, okay, so, wow, I moved one from Minnesota to up here.
Okay, I moved
So
Oh
moved
my
it from,
God.
it was hard.
I moved it from
There's a process.
the lakefront on the big part of the lake to the back of the lot, to the back bay, and we're building new at the lakefront.
Very nice.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so if you're talking, speak just informally or by my heart. There's 2 or 3 things. One is years ago, I was a general contractor in state of Minnesota, licensed there in Twin Cities, and I was also had a license as a septic systems installer. And I wrote my own contracts as I did this one. And as I said in here, at the beginning, I would have a number of sub clauses, as you see. And then because of instances like this, I'd start with 10, I'd end up years later with 30.
Right.
Tie the dog up so he doesn't get out. So now I got 2 more paragraphs here. in my new contract. And one is, it's not rodent proof. And number two, and this is a little touchy, but this is what I do because of this instance. I read the contract in front of my client and then I have them sign it, that I read it to them.
Yeah.
And it's a little demeaning, I think,
No,
but it gets it done.
Here's the thing, I agree with that completely, because then you know that
I
they
know.
heard it. And if they paid attention, that's on them. You read it, they have it.
I
and
read
you
it,
give them
they
a copy.
signed it.
And
And like I say, it's a little demeaning,
Yeah.
because I said, did you read it? Yeah, blah, blah, blah. And they go down and then they don't do it. And so
But
anyway,
here's the thing though, too, so you know, it doesn't matter if they signed it, the law presumes
Right.
they have
Right.
had to have read it.
right.
And even if they didn't, that's on them.
But besides the law, I do that because then if something comes up, such if I would have read that back to him face to face, the mice might have come up. And like I said in here a number of times, I wish you would have said to me, put the mice in writing, because I would have said, I can't do that. These are old containers and they can get in.
right. And
Now, just a minute, let me finish
sorry,
this.
Chuck. go ahead.
So, and then I could have said, hey, you got other options, get another supplier with brand new one trippers. They most likely can give you an option, and guarantee it. Or I could say, and I said this over and over, $15, go to Amazon or something. And once again, you said, get these pellets and throw them right on the threshold and that'll take care of it. And so once again, contracts are for clarity. I know I'm preaching to the choir. It's clarity and accountability. And that's why I write my own. It's not a stuff I pull off the internet.
And I'm gonna tell you, your contract could come back and bite you in some places. It hasn't yet in front of me, but I don't know, because I'm not saying that you're not good at writing your contract.
Yeah, I know.
But I read it as a lawyer brain, and there's
Yeah.
a few things that could be tweaked. But it seems to be working. And
And here,
I've done this for
30
like
years.
30 years. And like I say, each time I'm like a little kid, or like the little Dutch boy with his finger in the dike.
yeah, I understand.
And so I end up with bigger and bigger contracts as the years go on.
Chuck, I would argue that I was not seeking, nor do I think you need to put rodent control language in your contract. 'Cause
Oh,
it's-
I do.
Hear me out.
Oh,
hear me
no,
out.
you don't.
Yeah, it's already omitted.
Don't need to add it.
It's not, you're not covering it, right? What I find
That's
interesting,
not legal advice.
yeah,
That's from the court.
yeah, and what I find interesting is that my change I wouldn't ask you to put a provision in that said rodents. I would ask you to put a provision in that says the doors seal. When closed, the doors seal. That's the fundamental thing that I think
That's
is.
from a customer's point of view.
Exactly.
Not the business.
I
owner.
understand.
That opens the whole door, no
That's-
pun
That's
intended.
not in his best interest, but it is in your best interest, and you could say, this will not guarantee to be rodent or pest proof. You can add that, and then you're double protected. You're protected now, but you
Right.
would be protected more.
Right.
But I like where you're going, Mr. Gagnon, but that's for your
No,
protection.
for sure.
Not his.
Yeah, no, I get it. And I wasn't, and again, I was just trying to make the point. I understand. And, at the end of the day, Chuck, as part of our conversation early on, because I called you and one other guy and talked about the doors sealing and it basically being an added level of barrier that you wouldn't get in a pull shed.
Right.
And to me, that's what was not delivered. I don't believe you delivered
Okay,
on.
here's the overriding question I have here. And you say, speak from
Yeah, please.
inside of me. Is that you're a very successful businessman in the finance area.
Yeah, he sounds really smart, doesn't he?
Well, and very financially well-to-do, and you've done good for you. But between that and moving a house, as everybody knows, you're signing contracts left and right, and your financial well-being, your business well-being is 100% layered foundation-wise on written contracts. She has repeatedly
I understand.
mentioned a written contract as far as what we can and cannot talk about. You've done this professionally for years, and this is your bread and butter. You're doing your own contracting, moving a house and that, and of course, I know all about that. So you got contracts all over. But when you come to me and you got a major concern, it all evaporates. You got a major, you're telling me over and over and over, you got a major concern about mice. And you might have mentioned it, but I never, ever remember you mentioning it.
But even if he did, it doesn't.
No, yeah, I know,
We're talking as
but-
humans, I know.
But I'm just saying is that if you would have said,
Yeah.
put it in writing,
You wouldn't have done business with me.
doesn't make any difference because you're a businessman. If you know it's important, put it in writing. You didn't put it in writing, bingo. And I'm not trying to be hard ass here, but it's like,
I think you are.
No,
though,
I
at the end.
think I was being the hard
And,
ass.
I'll say it this way, you're right, I'm buying all kinds of stuff, I'm doing all kinds of services, and I'll just go, if
you
the guy
could
who
have
does-
brand new containers and you could still get mice in them.
I understand, but they're not gonna walk in because you can see the greater outdoor through the door when it's
Well,
closed.
And
no.
here's the thing, I think this can be negotiated back and forth and discussed back and forth all
Oh,
day.
yeah,
Right,
Your
right,
15 minutes or your 12 minutes
Is
is
up.
actually up.
right, right.
So,
So, yeah. Okay,
but
okay,
as a
I'm,
business person, nope, I understand and you're a business person and I believe you fully understand.
I do, and
Um,
it's the end of the day, like I'll just say it this way, if I buy a new door for my new house and it didn't show up with the weather seals, I don't have a contract that says I had to have weather seals on it, it was just a door being delivered. And I would like to think at the end of the
Well,
day,
at the end of the day, that business would, because the door comes with weather seals.
and so does the container, but it was missing
Ah.
some. That's my point, if I called and said, hey,
If you would have called him up and said, it doesn't have weather seals, I'm gonna tell you, I don't know for sure. I've never met this man other than this case. I bet you he would have either said, let's get you a different container, or I'll fix the weather seals, or you can go to Jim Bob Joe's. I think so. Correct, Mr. Amrine?
yes, well, I even put that in writing in
I'll
front
say-
of you.
Yeah,
Oh,
That's what I
okay.
said in there.
Well, that's what I would guess. Those are the
but on
three
the
things.
on
I
the
would have thought.
21st, you were aware that that was the issue of September, right? I sent you pictures saying, Chuck, here's the issue.
After the damage,
Yes,
after the damage.
Yes.
If it was before the damage and you would have noticed it before the damage, it was delivered and it did not have the weather seals. I'm telling you, again, only met this man for this
Yeah.
case. What I know and what I, from my 20 whatever years of doing these things, law, he would have done those things. He would have said, okay, I'll come fix it. Or whatever I
Messenger-
said, or he would, if
Yeah.
you go to Jim's and Jim will give you a new one, or, you know,
And it's a little bit, I understand, right? You call out the issue, is he gonna remediate it or not? The operating premise for me was, he took me through his inspection process, looks for holes, makes sure it's not, it has the integrity, right? So that's part of his sales pitch to
And I
me.
did
here's
that.
the thing, he did that, but you didn't bring it up to him either.
Wait,
So-
Nobody washes containers or paints them like I do.
but I understand,
Okay,
but that's
but
not even
again-
relevant to that.
Again, if you went through the inspection with him and you didn't notice anything at that time, that's on you.
Right.
Because,
well-
or if you noticed it the day after, that's when you could have called and said, oh, look, Mr.
Didn't
Amrine.
notice it until we came back from.
I know.
You know, but at the same time, I'm going to, on the premise of Chuck, you told me that you inspected and oh, by the way, and you missed
Doesn't
it.
it inspected 1,000% to make sure that it is as made the first day after it's made complete. He inspects it to make sure that it will do its job of holding the contents and be weatherproof and watertight
That's
condition.
painfully obvious today.
I know.
I'm just telling you, when we talked on the phone and delivered the container, that I believe was not. I'll say it this way,
It
Chuck,
took
I
you
don't think,
12 months to find that. And you
All
only-
no,
right,
no.
it is what it is, but I have to let my
Okay,
staff go.
right.
Chuck, it took.
Thank you
took
for
until
your
I-
help. You've been very,
So the verdict came down. Joseph walked away with nothing after the judge dismissed the entire matter. But here's the question. Was this legally correct but morally wrong? Comment below. Team Joseph or Team Chuck? Do you think a business owner should be responsible for an obvious hole in their equipment, even if the contract is silent? If this case got you thinking about the fine print, hit like. Share this with anyone you know currently using storage.